Hello everyone. So in the next part of the video, I'd like to walk you guys through on how to add forms to our website. So as you know, forms are basically is like an input where customers or someone who views your website can input their credentials or their details or anything. And what we can do, we can just submit the form to the server. And as you can know, Bootstrap has already have some built-in form classes, like you can have form controls and all of this, by the way. So as you know, form control actually basically the styling that's been given for inputs, and select is basically to have it like a drop-down options and so on. There are many of them. So I'd like to walk you guys through a basic, just like the most fundamental concept of how to add form to our Bootstrap website. So first of all, you need to be having this particular form tag right here, and of course there's an open and closing. And besides that, you need to be having, let's say, in order to have this particular email and together with this particular input box, you need to be having first of all this component called label, and that label will be having 4 props like this. So 4 props basically it's going to be identifying which particular input have this particular ID. So by doing that, you are able to have the place together, and that's how it works. And of course, class label is meant for styling from Bootstrap, and this is where we place the name of this particular label. And next thing is the input. This input tag right here actually is a basic HTML input tag, and of course you need to be having the type like how a basic HTML should be having. And this is where we are able to have give some styling properties, which is form control. So as you can see, we have form control right here, and for the label we have form label right here. So that's what's different from between these two components. And next thing is basically the ID. So as you can see here, example input email 1 is basically should be corresponding to example input email 1 right here. When these two having the same IDs together, they are automatically will be placed together. And yeah, that's the basic idea of how to have a simple input tag like here. And of course, password is basically you'll be having this particular dots right here, is because we already have this particular type here. Input type is basically password. Other than that, it's all the same thing. Next thing is to add this particular button right here. As you can see, the button will be having this particular button tag right here as usual. And of course, the type has to be submit, like how a typical HTML button should be. And of course, this particular button is basically to be having a simple button with button dash primary just for color. And there's nothing much new about this. And yeah, this is the basic idea of how to add forms. Okay, let me just show you what kind of other types of inputs that we can have. We have password, we have already covered password. We have disabled form. All you have to do just need to be having this particular disabled props right here. And besides that, we also have this particular select right here. So in select, we can actually have like this particular drop down menu where we are able to have multiple options. So in order to have this, all you have to do just need to be having this particular select tag right here. And inside here, you need to be having options with value. And of course, this is basically how you are able to select any one of this particular option, and then you are able to submit the form. And we also have sizing, what is the height of this particular input box should be. And of course we also happen to have checks and radios where we're able to check and uncheck the boxes right here. One of the things to be having is class form check, and of course we have form check input, and of course the basic HTML input type, which is type checkbox, and an ID is basically should be corresponding to the for value, and that's how your for value of the label, and that's how you're able to achieve this particular checkbox. And we also happen to have switches. Switches is basically, this is how you are able to have from one side to another side. Let's say this is almost similar to checkbox, but then it's just a bit more different in terms of styling. And we also happen to have toggle, where it's like when once we click it, it will be active, and when we click again, it won't be active. Single toggle, we have checked, and we have disabled, and so on. We also happen to have range. This is a simple input right here. And we also happen to have input group. Okay, input group is a bit more nicer and actually quite modern as well. As you can see here, the only difference is that we are able to add this particular section of this particular input box within the input box, where we are just able to just give anything. As you can see here, we're able to have like an icon, or this is just basically having this particular alias symbol. And actually you can also have icons, by the way, not just text, but you can also have icons. And we also happen to have floating labels. Floating label is where the labels are placed inside the input box, and once we click on it, it just becomes a bit to the top right here, and hence the name floating label, just like this. And that's why we're going to be adding as well. And also layout. where we're able to have position and segregate them. As you can see here, we're able to place them into one row like this, and of course we're able to place them in the same row like this. So yeah, I think so. And then as you can see here, when this email and password can be placed in the same row, and city and state and zip can be placed in the same row, and that's what this layout meant for. And you can also make them to be validated. For example, when you submit the form like this, you're able to have all this validation to be added as well, together with this particular input boxes as well. And those are the basic ideas how are we able to make use of forms into our website. So now let's actually add form to our website right here. And in the previous part, I've actually gone through how to add this particular icons and together with the list group. Now I'd like to create another new section in our code. So in our code right here, I'll create a new section, and this section is going to be about user trying to fill in their credential into here. So usually a website will be having a particular place or section where customers can input their details, and this particular details are mostly is meant for either for subscribing to a particular newsletter or just by giving like a feedback to the website. So in this case, I have to add like something more like adding like a feedback to our page. So as you can see here, I like to just like add another new section, just like label it. I like to say feedback section, and in this feedback section, of course, I like to have like an ID for this as well. So in this case, I like to add ID. It's going to be feedback, just like this. Of course, just make a small f, and inside here, I like to click almost the same like the one in the previously I've done. So as you can see right here, I like to do something like this particular section right here, where I like to place the forms on my right hand side and some text section on my left hand side here. So I like to make a copy of this particular section as well. So in this case, I like to go to this particular FAQ section, and I like to go to this particular FAQ section. I like to copy whatever is inside the container, and I like to go to this particular feed section again. And as you can see here, once we have added this, we are able to find this another new section has been added. It's just there's no gap at the top right here. I like to add some spacing at the top here, so I like to add some padding. So in this case, I like to add padding Y into our feedback section like this. And of course, we can just leave our section without any color, like white background like this. And of course, let's change the title of this particular section, where in this case I would say feedback. That's going to be the title of this particular section. And for subheading, I like to say share your thoughts, something like this, and you're able to find your website will be having this particular feedback section with this two particular. And the next thing is I like to have in the first column, I like to have some text, just like in this particular hero section. So I like to go to this again, I like to go back to the hero section, and this is where I like to have this particular, as you can see here, we happen to have all this text. So I like to copy everything, whatever it's inside here, just copy this entire column. I like to go back to this particular feedback section like this. In the first section, the first column right here, I like to replace it with this particular one that I just copied. As you can see here, we're able to find, we'll have some text on my left hand side right here. And as you can see, I'll just like to just keep it like this for now, but I'll just like to change this particular the title text to something more relevant. So I like to replace this particular title right here with share your thoughts again. So as you can see here, we're able to have this particular share your thoughts, and we won't be needing the subheading like this, and we can just keep it simple like this. And there you go. Right now, I like to do is that I like to have the second column right here, the right column right here, to be having this particular form right here. So I like to go to the most form control right here. That's the most basic one. So I like to go to this one, and I like to just like make use of this particular basic form layout which we have just gone through. So first of all, I have to go to the code right here, and of course I won't be needing this particular. Of course I won't be needing the content of this particular column, which I have actually copied directly from the previous section. So first of all, I like to have form tag to be placed right like this, and this is the form that actually wraps everything within that particular form that we are about to create on our right hand side right here. And of course, since we have form, first of all, we like to start with label, something like this, and label should be having for, and this particular for is going to be identifying a particular input's ID. So in this case, I like to say name. So name is the one that I like to make like the first input box, and the next is that I would like to have the class name for this particular label. So in this case, I like to say class form dash label like this, and of course this particular label should be having a text also. So in this case, I like to say name, or you can just say full name also. So besides that, I like to have input box right below here, input component, and this particular input component is going to be having an ID also. So first of all, I like to have ID to make sure to have this particular, to identify it uniquely. So I like to say name as well. And besides that, of course, the class name should be here as well. In this case, I like to add form control. So in that way, we are able to make use of that particular Bootstrap styling. And not to forget, we also need to have the type of this particular input box. So in this case, the type is going to be text. Yeah, just text, because there's going to be name. And we can also have a placeholder for this particular input box where we can just say example or EG. And I'm going to say John Doe because this is a name, just to identify the name. And there you go. This, we have just created a simple input component together with its label like this. As you can see in our website right here, we're able to have something like this, and we can just. So next thing is, I like to, instead of just having this particular basic one, I like to have input group. So input group is something that we have seen earlier in the beginning of this part. So in this case, I like to have the class name to be placed input group like this. We can just place this particular input within this particular input group div, right, like this. And let's place it right here, and inside here we can actually place like a span tag where we're able to have place a simple tags or anything like this. In this case, first of all, I like to have, like, let's say for example, I can just say at alias, and of course I need to be giving a class name for this as well. So in this case, I like to add input group tags like this. And if we go to the website, we are able to have this particular input groups symbol like this. So in this case, we are able to identify this particular name is going to be having this particular symbol. So we can also go to Bootstrap icons and look for a particular icon that is matching to the input. So first of all, I like to add user. So as you can see here, I can just get this particular person fill icon, just copy this and just go to our code, and I can just replace the alias symbol with this particular icon, right? As you can see right here, we're able to have a person icon together with the name like this. And let's actually go to the next part, where next input right here. So next input is going to be another input where it's going to be email this time. So in this case, I like to have the same, almost the same to each other. And the only difference is that I need to change the name. For example, the ID right here. So this particular name should be changed to an email, and also of course the ID should also changed also, and of course the name of this particular label also should be changed. For example, I need to make it email like this, and not to forget, this particular input should also be having the type to become email as well, because email is also a type of input. So in this case, I like to change the placeholder name to example at email.com. So as you can see here, we're able to have another input group like this, and of course you can see here there's no gap in between them, right? So we can just add something more like margin bottom for every single group. So in the first input group right here, I like to have MB4, and yeah, I just like to place it this, I like to copy this MB4 and also place it in the second input group like here. And once you go to our website, we're able to have some gap in between them. And next thing is, I like to add another new form right below email right here, and this time I'm going to be using this particular floating labels. So floating labels is something that when we click on it, it should hover, and that particular label should hover, and it should just go to the top right here. And besides that, we can also give some custom height like this. So as you can see here, inside this particular input box right here, we're able to have style, and that style is going to be having height equals to 100 pixels. The only difference is that they are using text area. So text area is something new to be implemented, and besides that, it's just the same thing like this. So the label should be placed at the bottom, and all you have to do just to make sure to have this form floating class name to be placed as the parent class name. And let's add something like this. And this case, I like to have like a feedback column where people can just input whatever their thoughts are about this particular website. So I like to add something like this into our website right below the email right here. So in this case, I like to go to this particular bottom part of this particular email tag, and in this case, I like to add a new div like this. And inside this particular div right here, I like to add like a class name as usual. This class name is going to be called form floating right here, and inside this particular div class right here, I like to have like what we have seen just now to be, we need to be having text area. So text area is like another new class, span text component, and inside here we don't actually need to place anything as a default characters, but within this particular tag right here, we can actually place some styling properties and all the class names that we should be having. So first of all, I like to have class name for this, of course, as usual. And of course we need to be having form control, because this is the input box right here. Basically this is the input box. And besides form control, we should also be having ID is meant for identifying the labels. So in this case I have to add ID should be comments. And besides ID, I should be also be having the style for this particular component. So the style is going to be having, I'll be adding is height, and of course going to be around like 100 pixels, and that should do. And besides text area, I should be also be having label like this, and label is where we are able to name this particular input box. So in this case I have to say comments or feedback, so anything. So in this case it can be anything. You can just place your feedback, comments, thoughts, or anything, just the way, almost as long it just keep the same idea. So this particular ID is going to be having for, where we can just say comments as well, like this. Yes, that's all we need to be doing. So in this case, as you can see right here in our website, we're able to find a simple input box will be created. But at this time, as you can see here, there's no floating here. There's no transition or anything, and that's the reason because I've not actually added the placeholder like this. So as you can see, we need to be having a simple placeholder so that it actually works for that particular transition to happen. So in this case, I have to add placeholder right here, and once I place right here, I'll be able to have that particular transition to be created in our website like this. And besides that, we can also have like a simple button at the most bottom right here, and that particular button can be just be placed right here, and just need to be saying button, and this particular button will be having its own type. So the type should be, in this case, should be submit. And besides that, we can also say submit to be the one inside that particular button, and we can also give some color to this particular button, where we are able to have some blue color, where we use button dash primary on most of the time. So button dash primary like this. And if I check our website right here, you're able to find there's no gap in between the button and the previous section. So in this case, let's go to the particular code right here. Of course, I have to add like a simple MB4 again for this particular form floating. So in this case, I have to add MB4. And if you go to our website right here, you're able to have some spacing to be placed right here. And yeah, that's how you're able to make use of simple Bootstrap forms to be implemented right here. And let's say if you like to add another new input. So in this case, I like to add another new input called select. So select is basically the drop-down menu I've just gone you guys through. So in this case, now code right here, we need to be having right after this particular email right here, you need to be having giving label first. So in this case, I like just like make a copy of the same label right here. I like to place it right here. And in this case, I like to change to a different ID. So in this case, I like to say topic, and topic is going to be where we are able to have some feedback on a particular topic for our website. So besides that, this is the label, by the way. So in order to have that particular drop down input box to be implemented, so you need to be using select, and the class name is going to be form select, and the ID is going to be it's just going to be saying topic like this. And of course, inside this particular select component is where we're going to be placing the options. So this is the first, I like to say option, and of course every option will be having its own value, and let's say pricing. And besides that, we can also place a particular option to be placed as the topic content as well. And besides that, we can also just like make multiple options. So in this case, the second one, I like to place content like this. And besides that, we can also change the third option. In this case, I like to say other like this. And of course, this particular, of course, it should be also be the same as the one as the input option right here. And if we go to our website right here, we're able to have this particular simple drop down option like this. And of course, you can see there's no gap in between them. So all you have to do just need to be having something that we have done before, where we need to be having MB4, and we can also add input group for this particular drop down option as well. So first of all, I like to go right below the label right here, and I like to paste that particular input group MB4 class name, and of course it's going to be an empty class. After that, we need to be placing this right inside here, and since it's an input group, we need to be having the span tag like this I've shown you before. So in this case, I will place it right here. As you can see, go to the website right here, we're able to find, and we can just change this particular icon for every single input box. So the second one right here, which says email, I have to look for an envelope icon. So in this case, I have to go to here and look for envelope, or just I have to say mail. That should do. And there you go. You can find a lot of envelope icons like this, and copy this, and we can just place it inside the email input box right here, which is right here. Just place it right here. And there you go. And we can also change this particular topic icon as well. So in this case, I have to go to Bootstrap icon again and just look for another new icon. So in this case, I like to say, message, something like this. I would do. So message box would be like something like this, and yeah, this anything of this should do. Let's say if I like to go with like this particular icon right here, just copy this and go to our code, and just need to be placing it inside our third option right here. And once we paste it like this, as you can see in our website, in our Bootstrap website, we're able to find this particular icon will be changed as well. And there you go. Right now, this is how you're able to make use of forms. So forms is basically a simple way where customers can actually send information to your website directly. And yeah, that's the basic idea of how to add forms into our Bootstrap website. And thanks for watching this particular part of the video. That's the end. Let's catch up on the next one.